when I look back on my life and all the things that I've had to go through to get here, like I'm just really proud of myself. There were so many moments when I could have quit. There's so many moments when I wanted to give up, when I wanted to throw in the towel, and I didn't. And that's something that needs to be celebrated. And I was not always celebrated when I was in the trenches. We've both gone through like a lot of deep personal experiences. And when you get through that, there's nothing more exciting and exhilarating than knowing that like you're a little bit stronger than you were yesterday, because mentors and other people cannot read your mind. You cannot expect people to help you or to give you an opportunity if you don't tell them what it is that you have on your plate, what projects you're working on, what your aspirations and your career goals are. So when my mentors stepped to me and they're like, okay, like what does the next year look like for you? What type of life do you see yourself living? How much money would you like to make? When they're asking me all these questions, it forces me to check myself and really be specific.
Hey, this is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey, Dream Drivers. Welcome to episode 190 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And today our guest is Pauleanna Reid, and we're going to be talking about why blessings have requirements and the keys to long-term success. Pauleanna is a speaker, author, celebrity ghostwriter, Forbes contributor, and the co-founder of New Girl on the Block, which is a mentorship program for millennial women that helps them navigate the path between professional success and personal fulfillment. Some of the hot topics that we discuss include why it's okay to sit on an idea, how to get a mentor, navigating past burnout, why you shouldn't always follow your passion, and so much more. Pauleanna also mentioned some books that have been really critical to her success. So for any of the books that we mentioned in today's episode, you can find them at dreamsanddrive.com/bookstore. As always, please make sure that you are sharing on social. I love it when you guys are sharing and reposting to Instagram stories, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Continue to do that. You can find us across the board at Dreams and Drive, and also make sure to use the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well, so you can go and search that so I can see who's posting, who's talking about it, and engage with you all. And thank you to everyone who's been leaving reviews on Apple Podcasts and iTunes about the show. I want to give a shout out to Adore73. She said this episode provided a great checklist on how to present yourself or brand without coming off as salesy. Thank you. And she was talking about episode 189, where we talked about how to create the perfect elevator pitch. So go on to Apple Podcasts, go into iTunes, leave a review, leave a rating. Let us know why you like the show, because when you guys give feedback and you guys share your experiences, it helps build the Dream Driver community, and for that I'm so appreciative. I am looking for small business owners who want to promote their businesses and their brands or a future episode of Dreams and Drive. So if you're a small business owner and you want to take advantage of some special rates and ad packages that we have going on, please message me on Instagram, on Twitter. You can also send an email to raina@dreamsanddrive.com, and we can discuss ways that you can get your brand onto Dreams and Drive. All right, so let's get into this episode with Pauleanna. Hope you enjoy. Hi, Pauleanna. Welcome to this episode of Dreams and Drive.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Raina.
No problem. I am excited to have you. So you have been somebody that I have been following for a while, and we have a mutual connection and past Dreams and Drive guest, Mackenzie Dawkins, who was able to connect the dots for us and make this happen. Shout out to Mackenzie.
Of course.
So I like to start our interviews going back in time, right? It's fun sometimes, I feel like, to reflect on who we were as children. So if I had to ask you, Pauleanna, growing up in Toronto, right? Did you grow up? Okay. What was inspiring you back then as a child? If I had to say, what was the young Pauleanna like? How would you describe that?
Very curious, with a willingness to color outside the lines. I was an athlete for most of my childhood. So I was a competitive swimmer for 11 years. I played soccer for 6 years. I played on the national team for 1 year.
Wow.
So highly competitive. My father is, he's a lieutenant in the military currently. So he's always been very detail oriented. He believes if you're on time, you're late. So there's definitely been that that advantage, and that like shark mentality to like get things done and to dream big and to take massive risk.
I didn't know that you were an athlete. That's pretty cool. Was it something that you were in, like that you wanted to pursue as a kid, or something that your parents got you into? Because I know when I was a kid, my mom put me in swimming lessons and I hated it. But now looking back, it was such a useful skill to have.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. There's so many lessons, both in business and in life, that you can learn from sports. Athletes are some of the most focused individuals in the world. And to be a world-class athlete, it definitely requires dedication and time. My parents introduced me to swimming when I was very, very little. We've always had a pool in our backyard. So at first it was more so for survival. And then we explored the opportunity and the idea of possibly going to the Olympics one day. Like, what would that look like? So yeah, 11 years, by the time I was in grade 6 or 7, I was already training at 5 a.m. before school. So I had, a very detailed routine, and had to, learn time management very, very quickly.
That's so dope. So when I was a kid, I wanted to be a track star, and my listeners are probably going to be so tired of me hearing this story. But like, I was the kid who like, I wanted to be this like the next FloJo, right? But I just not. I know there's something that has like, I know there's, how they say hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work, or whatever the quote is. I just was not talented. Like I trained and I wanted to be like, I really, really wanted to be the best, but I just think maybe genetically I wasn't meant to be the track star. But I will say that I used to win like all the spirit awards, like, team captain or spirit, or, most valuable player, in the sense that I was like the leader and the cheerleader for the team, which I think, you find your role in life sometimes when the original dream doesn't work out.
Yeah. And I mean, you know what? It's funny that you say that. We talked about talent, because I've changed my narrative over recent years and tried to stop encouraging people to follow their passion in the context. So let me provide some context. So,
okay,
if your passion is merely a hobby, totally cool. Right. But like, I think people need to grasp, and this is where emotional intelligence, this is where self-awareness comes in, right? If you're following a passion and in your head, like you are determined to make this work, but you're not necessarily skilled at the thing. So like me, I'm 5'3", I'm a thickums, like I'm not going to the WNBA. You know what I mean? But but basketball could be a passion of mine. Will Smith says like, your goals should not be realistic. But I do think that it's, in even the slightest way, I think people need to check themselves and really evaluate, right? If this is an ideal career path for them, if their business is going to be profitable by following this passion, or if this passion is simply just a hobby or a side hustle, that's okay too.
That is so, I'm so happy that you said that. And I want to get back to that later, because I think it's something that especially us millennial entrepreneurs, we get stuck in it, because we have this rhetoric, especially like in the modern day, just it's just the rhetoric now that, follow your passion, or your passion is what's going to make you money, and the money will come, but the passion comes first. So we definitely have to get back to that. So, I'm wondering, so what was your passion going, or not even passion, what was your dream going into college, or just like your later adolescent years, growing up as this decorated athlete, and then coming to the point where you had to define what your life would look like? How did you do that?
Once I decided to move on from sports, let me backtrack a little bit. So in high school, I was bullied a lot and I spent a lot of time alone. I wasn't like super popular. I wasn't super cool. I was an athlete. So I was built like a little boy. Like I had very broad shoulders, flat chest. So like none of the dudes were checking for me. Like it wasn't like that. And so during these times where I'd spend time alone, I would write in my notebook, doodle, and that's where life was perfect, is if only for the moment. And so when I hit grade 11 and 12, I really considered it to be a career path for me. I'm like, what would it look like? And this is like right before the blogging shift hit. And so I wanted to be a writer. I didn't necessarily know what that would look like, but when I would tell my friends or my teachers or my parents, like the dots didn't connect, because I didn't do well in school. Like my grades, like I really was an average student. And so a lot of people questioned like why I would want to be a writer to begin with, because, you know, it wasn't at the time, I don't think a lot of people understood the potential. And so when I hit college, my frustration grew even more, which I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate. You know, I kind of was stuck in a college program that I didn't necessarily love at the time. And I missed a lot of school. I ended up dropping out my second year. And as a result of like not listening to my intuition and my gut, I fell into a very, very deep depression. I was officially diagnosed in 2010, but I've really struggled with depression and anxiety since I was a child. And so it heightened and got worse when I was in college in 2008. I made the decision to walk away and just say, F everything. I'm going to figure this out. And that was one of the best decisions I ever made. Like walking towards that door, you know, with the light beaming through the cracks underneath it, you know, representing freedom for me. I'm so glad I listened to my gut.
I love that you mentioned that. And I was watching your video that you did with LinkedIn. I think it was on mental health in the workplace. And something you mentioned in that video was that sometimes people who, I don't remember the direct quote, but I remember you mentioned something about following other people's visions can sometimes be that thing that can, not attack our mental health, but do you know what I'm mentioning?
It can be a trigger for sure, right? Yeah. Like one of the worst decisions I've ever made was really like listening to people who thought they knew me better than I knew myself, right?
Like parents, even, you know, Caribbean parents, they can sometimes be like that.
I mean, it's not just limited to parents though. It could be your peers, you know, it could be your teachers. Like my teachers weren't necessarily lifting me up and like singing my praises and supporting me. Like, you know, like I feel like once you're a C or D student, most teachers write you off, right? Like, cause they don't see the potential there. But sometimes, a lot of our struggles or challenges could be also self-created, right? That narrative inside our head as to like, are we good enough? Like, because the thing is like when you're little, when you're young, like you're conditioned to think that you can be anything and everything you want to be, right? And then you get older and you transition into secondary school and you're now told you need to be more realistic. And I think a lot of people get caught in that gray area. And that's where a lot of the frustration comes from, because like, you know, you have this idea that you can be a doctor, an astronaut, or a cowboy. And then all of a sudden you need to be like an admin professional, or you need to be a nurse, or you need to, you know what I mean? Like, like you end up getting fit into this box. And so a lot of people look outside of themselves. Like we listen to podcasts and we read books and we read articles and we look outside ourselves for all the answers, when I do feel like all along our entire lives, the answers are very deep inside ourselves, and we just have to work with ourselves to like bring that out.
So what was the first step on you working or looking within yourself to figure out what was next for you after, you know, deciding to quit and beginning your career as a writer?
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, it was my college experience. Like that was very monumental for me, because not only was it some of my darkest days, but I was also having a lot of suicidal thoughts. I was honestly like asking myself, like, if I cannot follow my dreams, if I cannot pursue my passions, like what is the point? Like I didn't want to exist. I wanted to live. And so I felt very limited by the labels and expectations others had of me. So really dropping out of school, that was very monumental, because there was no degree to fall back on. My daddy's not rich. I didn't date a baller boyfriend. There was no crutch. I really had to like get knee deep in the thick of it and figure out how to do this shit on my own. And that's where mentors stepped in as well. God has a way of working things out. And so I was exposed to my very first mentor, two of my mentors in 2009. We're actually going to be celebrating our 10-year anniversary together next year. So, my mentors have really advocated for me. They believed in me on days I didn't believe in myself. They say entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs who have a business, their survival rate declines by 50%. Those who do not have a mentor. And so even though I didn't know that statistic back then, I did know that there was a great possibility that I could be successful if I stood on the shoulder of another giant.
What was the first lesson that one of your mentors taught you just about business or your approach to life?
To be very specific, and I think that has been a consistent thread with all my mentors to be very specific with my ask and not be afraid to ask for what I want. Because mentors and other people cannot read your mind. You cannot expect people to help you or to give you an opportunity if you don't tell them what it is that you have on your plate, what projects you're working on, what your aspirations and your career goals are. So when my mentors step to me and they're like, okay, like what does the next year look like for you? What type of life do you see yourself living? How much money would you like to make? When they're asking me all these questions, it forces me to check myself and really be specific. And so around that same time is when I started creating vision boards. And if you look at my room right now, like my current vision board is about 3.5 feet across my wall, right? Like I don't play when it comes to really manifesting the things that I want and my relationship with my future. And my mentors are the ones that taught me that.
That is a great tip. And I think that even Dream Drivers is something that we can take away from that as well, because I know for me personally, I don't know if you ever feel like this, but sometimes, people ask you so many questions and you just get overwhelmed and you just put it off because you don't want to, you sometimes attacking the questions just brings on, I know for me, sometimes it can bring on anxiety, but realizing that working through that discomfort is what will get you to the next step, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, it's one foot in front of the other, to be honest. Like there's no, your brain likes a routine. So I really just focused on creating a morning routine, nighttime routine, coping mechanisms if my anxiety was triggered, having supportive people around me. Well, a lot of people, the next natural ask is like, how do I even find a mentor? What is a mentor? And I'm always surprised when I speak to millennial women, especially millennial women of color, when they don't understand the value or the advantage of having a mentor, because a mentor can simply physically and mentally change the game for you. If you do not have your mentor, I personally feel, it's my personal opinion, you already lost. Because when you have a mentor who's a ride or die, when you have a mentor who's sending an introduction email, who's raising their hand when you're not in the room, who's advocating for you, who's putting their name on the line for you, that automatically puts you at an advantage over the rest of your industry, over the rest of your crew.
So important. And I read a lot of biographies or a lot of profiles of like other types of entrepreneurs who've made it, like let's say non-person of color. And you realize, like I always tell myself, like I'm in a podcast group and we always say like when we're stuck, we're like, what would a white man do? Right. Only because we say that because you realize that in other circles, that's how they're getting ahead. Like even when I used to work at a 9 to 5, and I realized that even in that circle, just corporate culture, it's not even about how skilled you are. You may not be the best at what you do, but if you have somebody who's willing to vouch for your work ethic and your ability to get there, you can go far.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I totally agree with that point. I think that, girl, I think it's also like humbling yourself. I think a lot of people have this, because of social media, everyone has an ego. Everyone loves to call themselves the CEO or whatever title. But it's like, honestly, you got to humble yourself and allow yourself to receive that criticism and that feedback. My mentors are not easy on me at all. Like they definitely check me when I need to be checked, but I appreciate that. And you cannot hate on someone who expects greatness of you.
So, moving along, so I know you launched your first book was Everything I Couldn't Tell My Mother, right? Is that the right understanding?
Yeah.
Okay, Everything
That's correct.
So what did writing that, publishing that, and getting feedback on that, like what did that do for, like how did that serve as a catalyst for everything that you're doing now?
Okay, so my belief has always been that if you carry emotional baggage with you, you're going to limit your possibilities, right? Like I knew that I had to deal with some shit that had happened to me. And writing was my obvious outlet. And I knew that I wanted to let it go because once I let that go, I made more room for new opportunities and blessings to come into my life. And so that was really like the underlying thing. It wasn't so much for my audience as it was for me, right? Okay. And going through a healing process. So that was very, very important to me to make amends to lay everything on the table and write my own story and not have anyone else do that for me. And also to let go of any resentment, of any hatred, of any frustration, of any anger, so that I could open myself up to what God had in store for me.
In 2014, did you have a plan for like what your actual business would look like? So at that point, were you doing like writer's block, or were you ghostwriting at that point as of yet?
I was still working as a journalist, but I did not know, honestly, like the layers of my brand came very organically. I always knew I was meant to be successful. I was just waiting on my turn. And so, like yourself, I do a lot of research. I read a lot of biographies. I watch a lot of documentaries. So for me, it was just a matter of like, I think most people like to, like, as soon as they get an idea, they want to execute. For me, I'm okay with sitting on an idea, not because I'm lazy, but for the purpose of, I believe everything has its own timing. So before I launched New Girl on the Block, which is my mentorship program for millennial women, I've mentored nearly 200 women in 9 countries in the last 2 years. So that, like, I sat on that idea for like a few years because I felt like I still needed more work. I still had to do more work within myself. For writer's block, the idea came to me many years prior, but I still felt like I had to do a little bit more work, refine my skills, refine my business acumen, and just like really, you know what I mean? So like timing is very important to me. So like things I believe in, like if you're juggling one ball, like I gradually just add to the mix, right? I don't believe I need to launch everything as soon as it hits my mind.
I think sometimes where a lot of creatives sometimes get it wrong is when they just have an idea and they just spring on it and they don't actually have the foundation. I remember you said this in an interview with Elaine Fluker, Support is Sexy podcast. You said blessings have requirements.
Hell yeah. Hell yes. Of course they have requirements. Yeah, like you can't just wait and sit. Like sometimes God is not going to move unless you do. Right. And so I'm very particular with how I use my time. You know what I mean? I have a very rigorous, goal setting process. I always raise my hands. Like there's so much preliminary work that you have to do. If you're going to run a race, you said you did track, but you have to warm up, you have to stretch, you have to eat the right, meals at a certain time. You have to get your mindset shifted. Like there's so many things that you have to do before you even hit the track.
So many things.
You understand? Yeah. So the thing is, it's like, I just feel like you can't expect a championship ring if you never go to practice. If like certain things are not a normal part of your routine, right, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to hit your tipping point.
Right, so I'm interested in how you launched New Girls on the Block. You had this mentoring idea. Did you just then were you doing research in other mentorship programs? Maybe walk our dream drivers through just a basic outline of how you had this idea and then how you made it happen.
Yeah, for sure. So like mentors have been so instrumental in my life. And I knew that I wanted to literally let as many people as I could know about the value of mentorship. So I knew having a brand and letting that be a driver would be the most effective way to do that. So it's really embedded in my ethos. It's embedded in a lot of my social media messaging. I credit my mentors and for everything that I do. And so really it just started off very simple. For the first year, I didn't even have a website. I had like a PowerPoint deck that I would work from. And so I would try to acquire new clients and new mentees from my PowerPoint deck. And it's funny I say that because I know so many people, I get in touch with so many people who do not launch something because it's not perfect. And my advice to that is that that's such bullshit, because you know what? One of my favorite quotes by Reid Hoffman, who's the founder of LinkedIn, he says, if your 1.0 is great, then you started too late. So I was always okay with launching something and it being messy. I was always okay with that. Even before I launched my book, Everything I Couldn't Tell My Mother, 4 years prior to that, it took me 4 years to write. But for every day of those 4 years, I was singing from the rooftops that this book was coming. Right? I didn't wait until I had like a perfectly crafted story. Actually, I don't know what direction I'm going to take the story, but please believe that when it hits the shelves, it's going to be hot. So it's the same thing with New Girl on the Block. I was okay with it being messy and for my audience to grow with me, and collectively figuring it out and getting feedback from, some of my early adapters and really just being open and growing with, and now it's like we have a scholarship program, we have tuition reimbursement, the mentees are able to apply for international field trips. Like I will personally write a check and put them on a plane if they feel like there's somewhere in the world that they need to be to further their career. Like this is not government funded, nothing, no grants, no investors. Like this is me, my hard-earned income, like me putting my money where my mouth is and really investing into the women who raise their hand and are serious about their stuff.
Wow. And they're also investing in you too, right? So it's kind of like, you guys are both helping each other. Question, when you were beginning this, was revenue a driver or were you more focused on the mission? Because I think sometimes when we're creatives, right, when we're people who are creating anything, right, you sometimes don't know what's the best way to start. Should you focus on the people or should you focus on the money?
Well, the people have always been important because I remember, I started my website 2009, 2010. And so I've had people literally grow with me for the last 8 years. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's always been about the people. But here's the thing. My belief is that when someone does not invest in themselves, they do not take the opportunity very seriously. I actually ran my mentorship program for free for the first year, right? And what my collective research has shown is that individuals are not showing up for their appointments. They're not handing in their homework on time or their assignments. They were making excuses. And I said, you know what? At one point, I wanted to save the world, but then I told myself, this is not only mentally and emotionally draining, but I need a better way of systemizing and also filtering people who just want to mess with my time. Right. And so I always tell people, if you ask me to mentor me, don't half step. That's very, very important to me. And I will not even, do you think I could step to any of my mentors and waste their time or ask them a dumb question or not show up for an appointment? Nah, there's no way. They would cut me off immediately. They don't play that. So for me, yeah, my mentorship program is a paid program because not only are you getting, lives are being changed dramatically. Story. I have a mentee who's a single mother of 3. She came to me because God planted on her heart that she was supposed to be an event planner. She worked with me for 11 months. She was not only able to put herself in a position where she could quit her job, but now she's back in school full time and her business, she's booking clients well into 5 and 6 months ahead.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's just not, I think people think that this is some Mickey Mouse stuff. No, this is the real deal. And I always tell my mentees, if you cannot even show up on time for appointments with me, I can only imagine how you're treating your clients or how you're treating other people. So I always say the arena that you and I play in, this is your training area. This is your practice for the real world. And the ones who do the work win. And the ones who don't, unfortunately, just don't. So
thinking about the many women that you've mentored, what do you think is the top shift that a lot of people have to make in their lives or in their mindset in order to start seeing the results that they want?
Top shift. I think honestly, it goes back to having clarity around what you want. I think people ask for things that they're not ready for. I think people want to be able to say that they have a gorgeous, glamorous brand. They want to be an entrepreneur. It's really sexy to be a business owner, but I'm telling you, underneath the surface, a lot of people do not know their shit. They don't know how to sell themselves. They don't know how to market themselves. They don't understand how to navigate social media. And so when mentees step to me and we peel back the layers of what they've already done, that's why for me, it's very important that this is not just a mentorship where we're holding hands and singing Kumbaya. That's just not what it is. I'm teaching them concepts. I'm walking them through experiences that I've had. I'm walking them through how to pitch themselves in meetings. I'm walking them through, client acquisition. I'm walking them through blue ocean strategy concepts, social media. There's so many, because I want them to be able to talk about themselves and talk about their businesses and brands in confidence. And I feel that a lot of women, when they have success, we don't brag enough. You know what I mean? We kind of
we play small.
Yeah, we play a small game. And so if anyone knows my brand or has studied my brand, you'd understand that I will continue to talk about my successes and continue to talk about my accomplishments because I work damn hard to achieve them. And so I think it's a matter of mind shifting in confidence, but also mind shifting in just really taking the time to know your stuff and play a patient game. it took me, I always tell people, it took me almost 10 years to finally get into a position that like, I can finally feel like, okay, like I'm going to be okay. Like I'm good. Right. I started in about 2010, 2009, and we're going into 2019. Like, it's like I was willing to play a long game, and Jay-Z's, he has many lyrics that also replicate and align with that idea, right? Like it's not going to happen in your first year. That's just not something that happens to everybody.
And I always tell myself, like, even with building this podcast, so it's going to be 3 years of Dreams and Drive in 2019. I always tell myself, year 3, Oprah was still in the newsroom, right? So when I'm like, when I'm getting, sometimes you know how it is, you get down on yourself, like, like, why am I not doing this? Or why has this not happened? You realize that all the stuff that you're building, you're laying the foundation. I don't know what's in the future, but I know that I'm building and I'm working towards getting there. And one of the things I love about your brand, Pauleanna, and I think is so important is you know how you said it took you a long time to get to that point where you were confidently telling and confidently showing off your successes. I love that you do that because you're inspiring other women to do that as well. Like even for myself, like I'm like, Pauleanna's out here talking about the press she got, talking about the trip she's taking, like, and you're so confident with it. And it's inspiring somebody else who you may never meet that person who you're inspiring, but you are. And that's why I think more of us need to really be aware of how us just even stepping outside of our discomfort will impact another. Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that when I look back on my life and all the things that I've had to go through to get here, like, I'm just really proud of myself. Like, I don't think that it's cocky. I'm just honestly really proud of myself because there were so many moments when I could have quit. There's so many moments when I wanted to give up, when I wanted to throw in the towel, and I didn't. And that's something that needs to be celebrated. And I was not always celebrated when I was in the trenches. And like, you and I know, like we both, I'm sure many of the women listening, and we've both gone through like a lot of deep personal experiences. And when you get through that, there's nothing more exciting and exhilarating than knowing that like you're a little bit stronger than you were yesterday.
Can you share a story where something went wrong in the business, but you were able to successfully navigate past that? Was there a challenge or a hurdle that was thrown at you that really took you back for a second, but you got back into drive?
So last year, so my dad has been bugging me to get a lawyer, because now with the communications agency, with the writer's block, for those people listening who don't know, I'm a celebrity ghostwriter. And so I'm just like a kid at heart when it comes to writing and creating content. And so for a long time, my dad is like, listen, you're leveling up. You're now dealing with celebrities and athletes and politicians. You need to get your business in order in terms of getting a proper bookkeeper, accountant, lawyer. And so like, as a creative, you just want to create. Like a lot of times you don't even think about certain things and certain structures. And he had to bug me for like 2 years until I finally got it. Because he's like, the minute you get sued, then you'll know. You know what I mean? Like, and I didn't want to wait for that to happen. I think I was more so afraid of that tipping point. Like having those people in place now meant that I need to take more responsibility, needed to spend more money. I mean, a 5-minute conversation with my lawyer, easily my bill is like $730 easily.
Wait, like legit 5 minutes?
Like legit, like 5 minutes, give or take. It could be like, 5 to 10. But remember the labor, right? So you have a quick call with your lawyer and you're thinking, oh, okay, cool. Just a cool hello. But the labor that they have to go in, I had to restructure all of my contracts. I had to incorporate my business. I had there's so many steps. I was so educated in that process. So I'm like, wow, like it really made me feel really good, but I had the potential to literally lose everything had I not gone through that. So really humbling myself again, listening to not just my father, but, other advisors, and avoiding the potential of like something like my whole business crashing and burning because I was stubborn.
Yeah. And I'm even like we were mentioning today before the interview got started I'm trying to navigate just a writing thing of like, and it's funny because you realize when you don't have clarity on how your content can be used or just anything, like you end up having to do more work if you don't set up the boundaries in the beginning. So
right. Oh, exactly.
Love that you say that. And I think as creatives, we sometimes shy away from it because it's not our forte. And I think it's just I think it's going to be a common theme of this interview is you have to be willing to step outside of that zone in order to get to the level where you can play at, or where you should be playing at, or where you can play at. What am I saying? You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. You got to stretch yourself, because that's the only way you're going to grow. So I have my people in place. They cost me a fortune, but you got to spend money to make money. That's just the name of the game. And so, it kills me when, I meet people who do not want to spend the money or feel like they don't have the potential or don't have the actual coin. Your relationship with money is so important. I speak money mantras into my life, affirmations into my life, how I speak to myself. I speak about money with respect. I'm an attractor of wealth. Like I'm worthy of abundance. Like I constantly speak those things into my life. And you'd be surprised. I mean, one time I had to redo one of my websites and it cost me $1,500. I did not know where I was going to get the extra capital from, but girl, like, I don't want to say just appeared in my bank account, but I was able to attract certain opportunities that easily and quickly led me to being able to fund that project. Right. So I think it's not just about looking in your wallet and being depressed because it's not there. You really have to invest in shifting your money mindset and your relationship with money. And sometimes it's a result of generational curses or generational conversations. But, there's really great books out there. One of my favorite books are The Law of Divine Compensation by Marianne Williamson, or Get Rich Lucky Bitch by Denise Duffield Thomas. There's Money, A Love Story by Kate Northrup. There's some really amazing literature out there to help you with your money mindset. So, I mean, I've heard one of my mentors say, like, if your business is not making money, then it's just a hobby, right? And if you're serious about making an impact, right, it requires growth, and growth requires funding, right? So like we all know, when you empower a girl, you change the world. And if you empower a woman who has a profitable business, I mean, there's so much that she can invest in other people's lives. She can feed her family. So we really need to stop with this Mickey Mouse game of just having cute Instagram accounts and really get serious about, okay, how am I going to level up in my business this year? What are my financial goals? And working backwards. If I want to make a projection of 350K, how much does that work out to every month, every week, every day, right? How many clients do I need to acquire every month? How many, you know what I mean? So like there's a bigger conversation that needs to be had that I think people are afraid of.
I am with you on that one. And I think it goes back to often people not really knowing how to have those conversations. So realizing if you don't know how, then maybe you need to invest in, as you said, it could be a mentor, it could be a business coach, but invest in figuring out the how, because then you'll forever be stuck in the lost mode, right? And if you're lost, where are you going to go, right? It's like people who never want to ask for directions. They're like, oh, I can figure it out. And they never get to where they have to go. I hate that. So I really want to make sure that we get to this part, because this is what I think fascinates me most about your story. And it's something that I can relate to, is the power of relationships. I think you are a great connector. I'm saying that just from watching your Instagram stories and stuff, but I really love how you're able to, you nurture the relationships and then you ask for the ask later, right? So can you walk me through one relationship that maybe walk us through the nurturing aspect, and then how you were able to go in and then ask for whatever it is that you asked for?
So there's one executive here in Toronto. She's a CEO of a PR firm. And so she's someone that I've been dying to work with for a very, very long time. I was introduced to her by my mentor, and my mentor, yes, co-signed me. However, he did not do the work for me by any means, right? So after he did the introduction, I really had to prove myself. And so for about a year and 3 months, I emailed her every few months and got very little response, right? So it could be, she gave me a one-line sentence, she gave me a smiley face, but there's no concrete steps forward. But I continued to be patient and continue to send value in her inbox. So maybe it was an opportunity to speak somewhere. Maybe it was some literature that I thought she'd appreciate. Maybe it was a status update as to what I'm working on in my brand. but did not give up. But I think people give up when it comes to, mile 2, mile 4, mile 6. But no, I was going to continue emailing her until I was able to really connect with her in a meaningful way. And so it took a year and 3 months. At that point, she then said, "Hey, let's do lunch." We did lunch. And once we sat down, she was like, "Listen, I have just been traveling. I've been busy. I have not been ignoring you." And I had made a joke. I'm like, "I'm probably the most persistent millennial you've ever come across." And she's like, "Honestly, I need someone like that on my team. So whatever it is, like, we discussed my services and how I want to help her." And she's like, "Done. And I'll make sure you're financially taken care of."
Wow. So you've been able to work with her. And you know what I loved about that story too, is you had, like, let's say she said, "Let's discuss your services." You had something to tell her, right? You weren't just like,
right.
I
had a game plan.
Let me,
I had a game plan, and I have been very direct. I have relationships because of what I do. I have relationships with different publishers, and I had arranged big meetings for her. I really went out of my way to make sure that she knew that I was serious, and so she's now become one of my mentors and dear friends, and I'm very, very grateful. And yeah, honestly, it took a year and 3 months. And I just don't think the average person would wait that long. And I'm not the average person. I'm always willing to play the long game.
Yeah. And a lot of us, I think some people don't realize, as you said, it's a long game, and there's power in persistence, but you have to, it's funny because I was once trying to get sponsorships for Dreams and Drive, and I kept emailing the same lady. Kind of like you, kept emailing her, a few months, I'd follow up. And then when I finally talked to her, she was like, "You were pleasantly persistent." Because there's something between being like annoying versus,
yeah, exactly.
Like, don't be the annoying persistent person, because there's two different paths you could go down there.
I agree.
How do you navigate burnout? I say that because, we're all doing so much. We're all like, we're going after our dreams, going after our goals. You work a 9 to 5, right? I think when I was following you before, you have a 9 to 5, you have your businesses, you're managing a team. How do you navigate making sure you just still stay sane at the end of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a 9 to 5, and my side hustle is a 6-figure generating business. So a lot of times people are like, why the heck would you work a 9 to 5, then come home and work 6 to midnight? And for me, it's just a matter of, because I want to. Like, I don't think entrepreneurship ever has to look one way. Entrepreneurship is what you make it. And if I can make 2 salaries, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. But managing a team and burnout. So I probably burn out once a quarter. My strength is not within the self-care world. I do what I can, but with such a rigorous travel schedule, with such a crazy demands and deadlines, and working with the caliber of people I work with, it can be very hard because sometimes I'm having meetings at 11 a.m. Sorry, not 11 a.m., 1 a.m. Sometimes I'm just like all over the place. And so for me personally, my team is everything to me. And I've built my team slowly over the last 10 years. I've always had an assistant and a project manager. And so they are like my right and left hand. So it's very important that the 3 of us, we steer the ship and we understand the vision. I also have a director of business development who helps me oversee strategic processes. And then everyone else plays a very important supporting role. So my team is everything for me. So while I'm at the office, or if I'm traveling, I can ensure that things are still getting done.
This is going to be mad random. And I'm only asking because when I was in college, I studied linguistics, right? Yeah. Stay with me here. I've never been to Canada, but, well, actually I think I have. I've been to Niagara Falls. Maybe it was from the New York.
Okay.
Anyway, so never been to Canada, but I know that you're Canadian, but you do so much business in the US, right? How do you navigate having such a dominant presence in the US, but still having a solid business in Canada? And also, what do you like better about, is there a market what's the difference between the markets for you?
For me, it's just a matter of Toronto is very relaxed. Okay. Toronto's my hometown. I do find that it's much easier to land and close business deals in the US because I don't know, the young professionals over there are like very forward thinking. Like, I don't want to take away anything from my hometown, but just the conversations that I've had and the people that I've met, they're ready to sign on the dotted line right away. You know what I mean? Like, the decision is done like ASAP. And so for me, I love that energy. I spend a lot of time in New York, the city that never sleeps. It's where dreams are made of. And so I've been very fortunate to be in the rooms with people who are just ready to dive in and ready to collaborate. So I come to Toronto to take a mental break and to take, because it's just it's comfortable here. It's chill. But like, I travel across the United States because I love the way that I'm challenged, and I love what people are doing across North America. And I love when we have a collision of ideas.
Yeah, and I think it also shows, like, for me, it's like you can dominate other markets, whether that's like location wise, or maybe it's a different market than you may think of. Like, I always tell people, so when I used to work, I worked at an e-commerce logistics fulfillment company, right? So it's not a sexy side of e-commerce, but it's a very important side because it's the business that gets your customers their products, right? So I always tell myself, like, people, like, you can, if you dig deeper, let's say you have the sexy business, let's say it's fashion, right? You want to be in fashion. If you just go a little bit deeper, you can find a niche that you can really dominate in because it's not as saturated. Like, I always tell myself, I'm gonna like, start a PR firm for e-commerce logistics company because they need help. Not anytime soon, but it's just like realizing that there are so many different markets, so many different playing fields that you can get in if you're just willing to do the research and figure out where the need is.
I completely agree. And fortunately for what I do, especially for my communications agency, right? The individuals, I want to say like the A and B list individuals are in Hollywood, they're in New York, they're in DC, they're in Atlanta, right? So I have to go where the audience is. I have to go where the business is. So, but Toronto's always home. You know what I mean? I'm hardly home, but always repping. And, there's a lot of potential here, right? There's so, you and I know there's so much talent that has come out of Toronto, whether it's The Weeknd or Tory Lanez or Drake or whoever it is. Jesse Reyes, there's like so many amazing people, Daniel Caesar. So I think that Torontonians understand, and we also have a global mindset, right? We're always going to rep home, but we are ready to take over the world.
Yeah, and the linguistics, the reason why I mentioned that was because I noticed when you talk, like, your accent, so there's certain words that you say a little bit differently. So it always intrigues me. Like, I love talking to people from different places. Like, even in America, I love, like, hearing the different American accents because it's just so fascinating to me about how, like, I even hear a little bit of a Caribbean twang in your Toronto accent too. So it's like, oh, I love hearing you talk. Okay, sorry about that. As we wind down, Pauleanna, take us through the top systems or business resources that you cannot live without.
What will put you at an advantage is researching your business, right? I attain a lot of information. I binge watch Shark Tank for the purpose of learning how to pitch myself, learning how to sell, learning how, like, understanding business vocabulary, right? So depending on the need at the time, whether it's marketing ads, whether it's social media, whether it's learning how to confidently sell myself and developing an elevator pitch, whether it's understanding my unique value proposition, I will go to the expert in that field. Whether it's a show, book, movie, podcast, whatever it is. I love watching talks and panels. I love reading books. Right now I'm reading a book called Rocket, and it's written by 4 partners at the Boston Consulting Group. The Boston Consulting Group, otherwise known as BCG, is one of the top consulting firms in the world. At one time, I had the privilege of working there. And so I'm really keen on learning, like, what other companies and what other startups are doing in order to scale their business. So I attain a lot of information. I think that's like why I know the things that I know, or how I'm able to implement certain things into my business, is because I'm a sponge. But again, you can't just acquire a lot of information and do nothing with it. It's really important that people learn to execute and not just acquire information.
So important. I am with you on that one. It can be a gift and a curse for creatives because we're people who are naturally inquisitive, right? Sometimes if you're just being inquisitive all day and you're not doing anything with it, it's like, come on, girl, you gotta do something now with all this information you have, or all this knowledge that you're gaining. Who is somebody on your team that you cannot live without?
My project manager and my assistant. Well, I mean, because they know everything about me, right? Everything down to credit card information. They know like a lot of confidential, things, I'm CCing them on personal emails. So they know everything about me. So they're the closest people to me. And so without them, I don't know what I do, right? Drake often talks about being very close to Noah, right? His producer, and he 40, doesn't know what
right?
Yeah. So for me, it's like my right and left hand. I don't know what I do without them. So they're the closest people to me and the most important.
And last, just kind of like rapid questions, is what's one marketing related strategy that you implemented in your business that really, really transformed it in some way?
Kevin Kelly has a theory called the 1,000 True Fans theory. And so, I'm just people can do research on it, but essentially what it is just focusing on the fact that you don't need 1 million fans to make a living off your art. You really just need 1,000, and to focus on and engage with the 1,000 people who have been rocking with you for a lifetime, and giving them all the praise and building a relationship with them, learning their motivations, understanding their pain points, and really just focusing on where you're at. It's easy to be discouraged, when you see people with millions of followers, but like, honestly, I've just learned to appreciate. I have less than 10K, maybe like 9 something. And like, it's been a very like amazing adventure. And like, people have been following me for the last 10 years. And so I just really nurture that. I try to be as transparent as possible. And yeah, like honestly, it's really about nurturing your audience and really building a relationship with them.
Yeah, I interviewed Alex Wolf. You know Alex, right?
She's amazing.
Yes, and we were talking about that, like the whole idea of resonating and how like followers don't really mean anything now, and it's more about engagement. Can you say something and your followers are influenced by what you say? Can actually go out and take some kind of action? That's what I think people really need to be worried about, or be focusing on building engagement with the people who really ride for you. Because like, would you rather have like, I think there's a song like, I'd rather have like 3 close friends and a room full of millions that no one really cares about you. So I love that. So last question, Pauleanna, what keeps you going? Like, what's the why at the end of the day?
There's a few. The mentees in my program, they are my bloodline. Like, they are like so important to me, and I know they're watching me, so they hold me accountable for my actions. So if at any time I want to do something stupid or I feel discouraged, I just look to them, and I know that they are holding me up. I also have younger siblings that are my motivator. I also keep in mind that I'm someone's future wife. Hey, and I'm trying to get things together. So when God presents me with my king, I'm ready. And last but not least, I don't want to be broke, because that's not cute. I have been broke.
Not cute, right?
No, like honestly, like my family has weathered financial storms, and I know what it feels like. And so for me, like being financially stable is very important to me. I recently paid off $45,000 in debt, and that was profit from my business. So that just goes to show you, that money is a powerful tool. So yeah, I just want to continue making more of it.
Congratulations. And I think that's inspiration to anybody who's listening. Like you said, you started this journey in 2009 or 2008?
2009.
2009, 10 years later, like be in it, like don't give up on the dream, because a lot of us, and this is where we'll get back to that first, how we were talking earlier about figuring out what that skill is, right? Making sure that you're aligning the skill with the passion. Thinking about it now, like what's that one skill that you really honed in on over these past 10 years that you know that it'll always be in your back pocket?
Just the belief in myself. Oftentimes we don't know, like we can't tell the future. We can't see around the corner, but Having faith is about believing in something you cannot see, feel, or touch. That has really been my anchor.
Thank you, Pauleanna. So let's quickly go into our lightning round. So this part of the interview, I'm going to give you a quick prompt, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. And we're sticking with our whole dreams and drive metaphor. Okay?
Sure. Yep.
First word, park.
Ivy.
Reverse.
Drive.
Neutral.
Stagnant.
Drive.
Forward.
Last but not least, if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So, Pauleanna, can you tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road?
Believe in yourself, refined skills. So having that confidence in your abilities, and a mentor.
Thank you. Pauleanna, can you tell our dream drivers where they can find you online if they want to learn more about you or connect with you?
Yeah, sure. So my name is very uniquely spelled. So I'm like the first 10 pages on Google. So it's Pauleanna Reid on Google, and I'm on every platform. And I'm very easily accessible. You'd be surprised.
Thank you so much, Pauleanna. This has been such a blessing, such a great conversation. And I hope our dream drivers are as inspired by your story as I was.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 190 with Pauleanna Reid. I hope you enjoyed hearing her dream driving journey as well as her keys to success. If you enjoyed what Pauleanna said today, please make sure that you share this with a friend. We are Dreams and Drive on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can also use the hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing. You sharing your experience is one of the best ways that we can get and grow the Dreams and Drive community. So thank you for everyone who does it weekly. I appreciate you. I recognize you and I see you. And if you want to check out the books that Pauleanna mentioned in today's episode, go to dreamsanddrive.com/bookstore. That's where you can browse all the books mentioned in the episode and other of my favorites as well. Remember, I am looking for small business owners who want to promote their products and services on a future episode of Dreams and Drive. I have some special small business packages that I would love you all to utilize and get in on. So please email me at Raina@dreamsanddrive.com, or you can message me on social media as well. And Raina is spelled RANA @dreamsanddrive.com. I'm also going to do some promoting of myself. I don't think a lot of you guys know, but I do offer one-on-one strategy sessions. So if you're a small business owner and you need help in the areas of marketing, or if you're a fellow podcaster and want to have a podcast strategy session with me, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/book, dreamsanddrive.com/book. And I'm also offering the Dreams and Drive elevator pitch coaching sessions as well. You're always invited to join our Dreams and Drive The Keys newsletter mailing list. If you want to get on that list, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. All right, so I really hope that you all take action this week. If there's one thing that you remember from today's episode, it's that blessings have requirements. And that means that you got to take action and you have to put in the work for what you want. All right, keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 191. Bye, guys.